I saw Edu over in America and he said, listen, he goes, we've done our groundwork.
But one signing that I think kind of split the fan base is the Kai Havertz signing.
I was really shocked when Arsenal went in for Kai Havertz. I didn't see that one coming. I think he's under a lot of pressure.
What happens with Mikel Arteta? Do we give him more time or?
Good manager, but we need to see. Ultimately, you know what I mean, all these, whether it be Arteta, whether it be, you know, Pochettino, Ten Hag, Postecoglou, you know what I mean, you're judged on the trophy.
Welcome back to the BoreDraw podcast. Today, we are joining you from a very exciting new location. Some would say a slight upgrade from the little shed we've got going on at home. We're here today at the AFTV studios to be talking to the man himself, Robbie Lyle, about all things Arsenal. Robbie, how you doing?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, if you don't know Robbie, he's literally the man when it comes to YouTube football, covers everything. Big time with the Arsenal. Even dips his toes into a little bit of the F1.
F1, yeah. We do F1. We've got DR Sports, which also does all football, bit of boxing as well. So, yeah.
Covering all the bases. So, yeah.
Covered all bases.
If you're watching this and you don't know who he is, you got a problem. Make sure you get to know. But, yeah, before we start, I'd just like to let you know that if you're interested in winning a signed Gabriel Martinelli shirt, this season's Arsenal shirt, stick around to the end of the video. You can find out how you can get yourselves in with the chance of winning this lovely shirt.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll kick off. We're going to talk a little bit about how Arsenal got on last season and sort of the expectations. It might be a bit of a sore topic now, but I think for a lot of Arsenal fans, will come with time. It'll prove to be something that you look back on with fondness, the journey you went on, especially considering the expectations at the beginning of the season to where they finished. So do you want to sort of...
Well, I think, weirdly enough, so we're one game into the season at the moment. We've just had Nottingham Forest on the weekend. And what I thought was weird about the Nottingham Forest game is it kind of perfectly mirrored how last season went. Very strong start and then a kind of fall off towards the end of last season. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of how you found last season, the kind of ride from being top of the league. Expectations were not low at the start of the season, but were like top four, we'll take that, to the title challenge, to eventually kind of bottling the title challenge. Kind of, how did you feel about that last season?
Yeah, it was a mixed season because, like you said, when the season started off, the expectations were we hopefully can get top four. It wasn't like guaranteed top four, you know what I mean? Because if you actually looked at most people's predictions at the start of last season, they didn't have Arsenal in their top four.
Yeah,
they had Chelsea in there. They had it was
Liverpool,
like Liverpool.
definitely.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We were not in the top four. We were not in it. So we were sort of like at the start of the season, right? We put together a good team that we think can challenge to get into that top four. This is what Zinchenko and Jesus. And we was thinking, yeah, you know what, this team, they could do something this season, right? I went to all the pre-season games. Arsenal looked really strong, was playing some really good football. And you could see there was a real togetherness in the team and a real sort of confidence. So when we got off to a good start of the season, it didn't shock me because I felt that we were going to start well. Obviously, as the game started to go on and on and on, and we kept winning, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? We are really playing. And it wasn't just the fact that we were winning. We were playing some great football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were playing teams off the park.
It was scintillating to watch.
Scintillating, absolutely scintillating.
It was a complete contrast to sort of the days of Emery where you were playing such a more pragmatic approach of football.
Yes.
And it was nice to see you almost revert back to the Arsenal of old.
Yeah, and if you remember rightly, there was one time under Emery when we went on a great run.
Yeah.
But I remember that run. That run looked better on paper than the actual football was because there's a lot of games we just scraped it. And whereas this time, we were playing well. We were playing scintillating football. And everybody started to take notice and say, hey, hold on a minute. Arsenal going to fall away. But then we keep playing and be like, Arsenal going to... You know, and we played brilliantly. And then we had to break for the World Cup. A lot of people were like, well, when they come back after the World Cup...
Especially with no Gabriel Jesus.
Especially Jesus got injured. Everyone thought we'd fall away again. We didn't. We came back and again, we sustained a great run and, you know what I mean, we were getting great results and winning away at Tottenham, winning away at Chelsea, you know. But then as we got to the end now, I just felt that there was a couple of key injuries.
Yeah.
The injury to William Saliba, it's not only because of that, but I think that was a key injury because what it did is it changed how we played.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden we went from being quite high up the pitch.
Yeah, the high line didn't exist.
Yeah, to going a bit deeper. And then we just started to have more problems in the whole structure of how the team was playing.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of squad depth, in my opinion, that kind of done for us in the end. And, you know, and also a lack of experience in those situations. I mean, we were still in a good position. We had the game against Liverpool where we were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
Let that slip.
Xhaka
Then we had the West Ham game after that. We're 2-0 up, absolutely cruising.
Let that go.
And then we let that go. And then, you know, I mean, there's the Southampton one, that was awful. That was bad, you know. And after that, I just felt like, you know, it was lost. It was gone then.
Yeah.
You know, even though after then we still had a little mini revival, but it was gone then. And the other thing is as well, City were just relentless. I mean, they went on this unbelievable run. They literally, after the World Cup, they only they didn't lose a game and they only drew one game.
Yeah.
And they won every other game, which is unheard of what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, you can't stop that.
If you were to go back like 5, 6, 7 years, and if a team went on that run, it would have been unheard of. Because we forget the standard that City has now set. It's not it's incomparable to other teams.
Yeah.
Like this summer they lost Gundogan, Mahrez, 2 key players who, although didn't have all the playing time, weren't the star players. Had they probably been in the Arsenal team, they'd probably be alongside maybe starting players. You know what I mean? That's the level that they're at. So
those are starting players in any other team that they're able to. You look at, say, in the case of Gundogan, he's in his 30s now, but what they were able to do was to sort of hold him back for a long time, use him sparingly, right, because of his age. But then when he came in towards the end of the season, now he's as fresh as daisies.
Yeah, one of the best players.
And he's a top player. And then you got Mahrez and these guys. Foden as well came back in. And then, of course, they had Haaland, who broke all records. You really analyse it, right? We were up against an unbelievable team. They won the treble.
Yeah, we're up against the best team in the world.
Yeah, the best team in the world we were up against. So even though we fought it, I think if we'd have been up against anybody else, we would have been allowed a couple of slips.
Yeah.
Because we'd done so well at the start of the season. For 3/4 of the season, we've been brilliant.
Yeah.
We would have been allowed a few slips and still would have made it over the line. But when they're chasing you, you're not allowed any slips.
Yeah, and maybe if we'd scattered the slips, like a couple at the start of the season and then a couple at the end, it wouldn't have looked as bad. But because we were so near enough perfect at the start of the season, and then at the end the slips were all pretty close together, like back-to-back games, it maybe made it look worse. But all in all, the season was still, like we were saying, really good.
At the end of the day, they deserved to win it. They beat us home and away.
Yeah.
And if you finish the season, I think there was about 7 points ahead of us or something like that, and you've beaten the team that's after you home and away, you deserve to win it. You know what I mean? So, but I think there was a lot of positives to take out of the season. You know what I mean? We challenged for the league. You know what I mean? Which is, for me as an Arsenal fan, that's what I've been wanting to see for a very long time. We've just not challenged for the league. You know what I mean? It'd be like February and we're out of it. Yeah. You know, and to see us go nearly all the way against a good City team, you know what I mean? A great City team.
The best,
was, something to be really proud of. But it was really
bitter towards
deflating and disappointing and, towards the end, because we were all starting to dream of finally bringing that league back to the Emirates.
Yeah, and it's been a while. Like I was talking to Luke before we did this about how, as a QPR fan, his kind of definition of success probably a little bit different to like a top 6 team definition of success.
It's so different. We talk about the perspective in sort of Man City, a fan who's probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years old now. They've known nothing but success for the last however many years. And in a couple of years' time, that will inevitably change, and another team will see success, and that's just the way that football goes. And it is all about that perspective. And sometimes when you're at the top for so long, like Arsenal were, I think, what was it, like 90% of the season, something crazy like that. It's hard to remember where your expectations were, and you should never settle for where your expectations were if you're far overreaching it. But we mustn't forget that you are years ahead of the project deadline, the Mikel Arteta project. You've got Edu in the background who's doing absolute wonders with your transfer business. Every year, last year, you look at the players you brought in, compared to the players you brought in this year, and you're in a whole different bracket. You're targeting elite players. Declan Rice, one of the top 3 in the world in his position. Small teams don't do that. Teams that challenge do that. They are the top echelon of teams, and you're seeing that. And you've got a brilliant manager. You've got a team that plays scintillating, fantastic football. And we saw in that documentary how there is such a togetherness together. So it is only looking sort of positive for Arsenal. And maybe we'll sort of move on to the new season.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the players that you brought in a bit and sort of where do we go from here? How do we bridge the gap to Man City? Because they are the ones that everyone, not just in the Premier League, but in the world, are chasing.
Very, very difficult to bridge the gap between them because they've got so many. I mean, they've got the best striker in the world right now in Haaland. They've got the best, probably, one of the best midfielders around in De Bruyne.
And the best manager of all time, perhaps.
They've got the best manager of all time. They've just brought in Gvardiol.
Yeah, the defence is crazy.
Who's like an unbelievable defender. It's a really, really good signing. They're looking at Paqueta, and so they're strengthening. They don't settle on their laurels. They'll be driven and motivated to try and win it 4 times. No one's ever done it 4 times in a row. So, but to close the gap on them, remember the gap wasn't big last season. The gap was closing, right? So to close the gap on them, we've had to strengthen, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far. You know what I mean? Declan Rice was a brilliant sign. I saw Edu over in America, and I said to him in the pre-season, and I said, we were talking, and I said, listen, you done fantastic to pull that off, to get that done. And he said, listen, he goes, we've done our groundwork. We've been talking to Declan Rice for a long time, setting this all up. And that's how, and people forget, Man City came in.
To beat Man City to a signing.
Yeah, Man City came in to try and get the deal done. There's a lot of parallels between this and what we're seeing going on between Chelsea and Liverpool. Right? In that it's the same situation in that Arsenal done their groundwork so much that the player himself was already sort of saying to Man City, well, listen, I'm going Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to go to Arsenal. We've got everything sorted out. I want to go to Arsenal, right? And City, they were smart. They then said, right, they're not going to put any further bids in because they know he's definitely gone. Whereas in the case of Liverpool, I think they didn't sort of maybe consult enough with Caicedo.
Didn't get the hint.
Because he would have probably said to them, listen, I'm going
I think
to
he
Chelsea.
He gave his word to Chelsea.
Yeah, I've already given my word. I've already had so many discussions with them because remember, they were after him all summer. I definitely want to go there. And then maybe they wouldn't have made that bid, which has made them look a bit stupid now.
Yeah.
But it's the groundwork that Arteta done, and we were able to pull such a massive signing like Declan Rice over the line. It's
a lot of his interviews,
record for us.
Him saying that Arteta, whatever he's saying to these players that came in, like you see it with Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, and then this season Declan Rice, whatever he's saying to them in their like personal one-on-ones, he has a way with words because the way he kind of portrays the project must be very appealing to these kind of players. Because for them to turn down, all 3 of them pretty much to turn down Man City, them 2 already, Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko already being there, and Declan Rice potentially going there, for all of them to turn down the Man City situation for Arsenal, makes you think that Arteta has got an exciting thing going on.
He's definitely a brilliant man manager. We've seen that time and time again. The way he protects his players against the press, I think, is a phenomenal thing that can't really be underrated because a lot of managers can just sort of shy away from that, but he goes out of his way. He's proactive in terms of protecting his players, but he's also a student of Pep, so he will be tactically switched on from minute one. And I think we saw last season him get it wrong a few times, but we mustn't forget he's a young manager. It's not like he's been managing for years and years and years. He's very new to this.
Yep.
So for him to be as far as he is, he's a Champions League manager, 2nd place finish in the Premier League, FA Cup.
Yeah.
And so we mustn't forget, he's such a young manager. If you were to have to scale that down to what a football player would be, for his sort of age, it's unbelievable what he's achieved. He's taken the best team in the world, the best manager in the world, to the very end. And although 7 points sounds like a lot, it was close the way it happened.
Yeah.
And it was also a weird season because you had the World Cup in the middle. You were unlucky with injuries. You don't have the depth that Man City do. You lose. So you lost William Saliba and then you lost Tomiyasu at this sort of similar time. So what can you do? What can you do unless you're lucky enough to have the Man City academy as well? They managed to bring in like Rico Lewis, who covered up for Kyle Walker.
Yeah.
They binned off Cancelo, didn't they? He's, if not one of the best right backs in the world on his day. So it's a crazy amount.
Well, in terms of depth, though, our summer signings, like we were saying, I'd say one of the best windows in terms of the league. We probably have one of the strongest windows. But one signing that I think has kind of split the fan base and split probably all football fans is the Kai Havertz signing. I'm of the opinion that there is definitely still a player there, and that utilised in kind of a squad that is flowing, a squad that is kind of settled. He was never in a Chelsea squad that was settled. It was always either manager turmoil or places for teams were never settled. I think if he comes into a strong, settled team, he's a strong asset. How do you feel about the Kai Havertz signing?
Yeah, like you said, he splits the fan base. I was really shocked when Arsenal went in for Kai Havertz. I didn't see that one coming, and I think he's under a lot of pressure at Arsenal.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? When you think about the fee's
massive.
You know, it's not like he came in for like 20 million or something where you say, oh, well, what, you know, what's... You like Jorginho.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got Jorginho, he's pretty cheap. And, you know, you kind of look at it and say, all right, that makes sense.
Worth
the
the
Havertz
risk, yeah.
one, you're looking at it and thinking 65 million, there's other players who could have went out there and got. So this is Mikel Arteta's man. And, you know, there was a proper player by Leverkusen. He was like one of the best young players in European football. He kind of regressed. I know he scored the winning goal in the Champions League for Chelsea, but he kind of regressed there.
Though, can you?
You can't live off of that forever. And I just feel that he's under a lot of pressure. Where does he play in this team? What is his position? You know, is he coming in to play in that role which Granit Xhaka used to play, or is he coming in as a striker? Right? So there's so many unanswered questions of him that it's really hard to have an opinion until the season starts to play out. And he, I think, more than any other player in that Arsenal team, is going to be under a lot of pressure because there's a high price tag.
Yeah.
You come from Chelsea.
Yeah.
And you were a signing that a lot of fans probably didn't want.
Yeah.
So, but you can, on the other hand, he can win the fans around by having
Big
great performances. He is a top player. He's a German international. He's not one of their, you know, their number one players. He's the go-to guy in their team. He's got it.
Yeah.
He just needs to show it at the Emirates Stadium. If he can do that, he'll win the fans around quick.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? I think a lot of fans are really undecided on him because, you know, we just remember him at Chelsea and he weren't that great.
And it's so hard to figure out where he plays because in the Community Shield, he played up top as the kind of number 9 by himself. And then in the Nottingham Forest game, he was the left-sided 8.
Yeah.
So I think...
Which is where I think he's going to...
Definitely.
I think is what he's been brought in to play in that position. But I think what it is, because he's been brought in because he's a versatile player as well. So he can play up top.
Yeah.
He can also play as a right winger as well. So I feel, you know, it's...
And he's a big boy as well.
He is, but he's not known for his physicality and stuff like that. Although I did think he did well in the Community Shield holding the ball up.
I thought he was by far and away one of the stand-up performers at the Community Shield. Even though he maybe didn't take his chances as well as someone who'd been hitting the floor running, someone in a hot patch of form, he was there. He was in the right positions. He had far bigger impact on that game than Erling Haaland did. And I know Haaland took off about 60 minutes, but I thought Kai Havertz, he was getting on the end of Ben White. Round of applause for him because he was getting to that byline and he was getting those balls in, like cutting, like daisy cut crosses into the box. And maybe there's a bit behind Kai, but you can get that working. He's a goal scorer, and we saw it back in the day at Leverkusen. The unfortunate thing is his position is sort of, it's an old fashioned football position. He was like a shadow striker. You don't really get that too much anymore. He used to play off the number 9 for Leverkusen, whereas now you're looking at a more systemic sort of style of football where it's less free flowing and it's more players have instructions rather than positions. So, but maybe that's to his benefit.
Big season,
he can do everything.
Big season, got a lot to prove. A lot to prove at Arsenal.
Definitely.
I know you said you went away to the US to see the boys. Who was your standout player? Because for me, Jurriën Timber was one of the standout players that I kept an eye on.
I mean, he's been the standout out of all the new signings. He really has been. I mean, he's been an excellent signing. Again, that came out of the blue. I wasn't expecting Arsenal to go for him. I remember last year Man United were trying to bring him in. I know he's a good player. I've seen him when he's been playing for the Netherlands and a little bit for Ajax. But he's really impressed. You know what I mean? He's strong. He's quick.
He's switched on, isn't he?
He's skillful. He reads the game so well.
Versatile.
I think he's going to be a really good player. Yeah, I mean, he plays right back, left back, and you know, he's played right back already for us. He's played left back. Yeah. He hasn't played as a centre back, which is where he used to play for Ajax. Yeah. So he can fill in that position as well. So he's an exciting player, really, really is. And I think he could be one of the signings of the summer. I think it could be one of the real finds of.
Went perfectly under the radar because everyone was talking
it?
about Declan Rice, and then while that was going on, we just
I think
slotted in.
he was, for me, probably the stand-up player in the community shield. I think the minute he went off, you noticed a difference, and Tierney came on, I think it was, and that Cole Palmer goal sort of originated from the right-hand side of the pitch. So, for me, Timber, underrated signing, 100%, and probably the one to look out for because
very similar to Saliba in sort of the way in which he's ball-playing player, but
so calm on the ball,
strong and aggressive. You know what I mean? Good player.
Yeah, William Saliba.
He's
a man at the moment. I think, honestly, if you have an injury-free season for him, he probably is maybe the best centre-back in the league.
We missed
Ruben
him.
Diaz is...
Yeah. Diaz probably... Yeah, I'll probably still say Diaz. But, you know, Saliba's up there. Saliba's up there. Yeah, I mean, we come second last year and he... You know, most of the good things we did in defence centred around him. So he's up there.
There was some crazy statistic in games where he played and then during his injury, the sort of goal, the threat on goal and the goals conceded were much higher. So, yeah, it was really interesting. Let's talk about something. It's a really hard question to answer because it's a lot of what ifs and unknowns. But if we get to the end of the season and Arteta either hasn't won a trophy or you don't sort of get to the level where you did last season, you don't push Man City or whoever wins the league to the last few games of the season, maybe you don't get out the Champions League groups. What happens with Mikel Arteta? Do we give him more time or? It
all depends, I guess. Because football's a funny game. You're under pressure. And I think he's under pressure now because of the spending.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of money now. So whereas I said last year the expectations were fairly low and you know, fans are sort of like, well, hopefully we've put together a team that can get into the top four. A lot of fans are looking at it and thinking, well, top four's a given now with the money we've spent, and we want to see a challenge mounted on the league, and we want a trophy. Now, with teams like Man City around, and with teams like Chelsea strengthening, Liverpool, Man United, all spending hundreds of millions of pounds, it's not easy. So it would really depend upon how the season went. If we can still see a team that's progressing, I don't see who would be sacked.
Yeah.
You know, I think if we could see a team that, you know, is falling apart or something like that, well, that might change.
Yeah.
Change. It's really hard to say at this stage of the season, but certainly he's under a lot more pressure this season because of all the spending.
Yeah. I totally agree. Which is interesting because a lot of fans, I'm seeing a lot of fans predicting their league table, and a lot of fans have Arsenal to drop off and not even compete for top four anymore. But then later in the season, when we're not competing and we've got the spend, and then they're like, "Oh, why aren't you competing for the title?" And it's like, "Well, you didn't think we were going to do anyway." So
that was last year. None of them has us competing for the title. I trust me. Arsenal fans maybe had us in top four.
Yeah.
Most other fans did not have us in the top four. They had Man City, they had United, they had Liverpool,
probably Chelsea,
and they had Chelsea.
Yeah.
And then they had even Newcastle teams out in front of us. They had Tottenham in front of us. Yeah. So.
To be fair, I had the Arsenal tinted goggles. I had Arsenal in third.
They served you well. But yeah, did. I mean, even this season, I've got my prediction. I think I've got Man City win the league. I think that's just a given for everyone. It's a safe bet to go for. I've still got Liverpool in second. And for me, the difference between Liverpool and every team below them, they've got Jurgen Klopp. And I don't... him and Pep, he's the only one that really takes it to Pep. And I know Mikel did it last season, but every season before that, it's been Liverpool, Man City, 100 points, 100 points, 100 points, 100 points. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was a few seasons ago, though. I think Liverpool now have got a few problems with their team.
Definitely. Their midfield is
you know what
weak.
I mean? Their midfield, listen, there's still the rest of the transfer window to go. And also, I think their defence is not quite as strong as it used to be. So, but Liverpool are always going to be up there.
Yeah.
Well, 100% Liverpool will be back this season. Chelsea, we've already seen that, you know, they've improved a lot. They're spending money like it's going out of business. Right?
800 million since Todd Bowley's been around.
You know, you can't spend that type of money and not, you know, end up challenging. You know what I mean? I think they will. Maybe not this year, but they will be.
I mean, we saw Newcastle this weekend have a outrageous performance against another team who were quite high flying.
Newcastle, Man United are stronger.
Yep.
You know, so it's going to be a really interesting league.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the game.
It is indeed.
You never really know until it's over. And even then, you'd still be scratching your head about a few things.
Exactly.
So what are your expectations then for Arsenal this season?
My expectations is we challenge for the league.
Yep.
Top four finish. And we go pretty deep into the Champions League as well. I'd like to see at least a quarter-final, You know, we
Finally
haven't
get
been
out
in
of the
it,
group
we haven't been in
stage,
it for a long time.
Yeah.
been a
So
long time, yeah.
I'm not expecting to win it or nothing like that, but to go deep into it and maybe win an FA Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're there or thereabouts.
That'd be like my minimum. But what I really want to do is I want to
treble.
win. I want to win the league. Well,
But yeah, the league.
I want to win the league.
Yeah.
Man. That's all.
Would you pick the league over the Champions League?
That's the one, isn't it?
I think I'd take the Champions League just because we've
Yeah,
never
we
ever
have
won
done
it.
that, yeah.
But either, any of them.
That's the $1 million question, isn't
It is indeed.
But yeah, should we move on to some? We've got some quick fire sort of questions for you.
Okay.
Just to get a sort of glimpse into how your brain's working. Mm-hmm. So we got this little questionnaire. Three options. You get to pick one of them. Mm-hmm. Which historic Arsenal player would you like to add to this current team? You can choose between Cazorla, Sanchez, and Van Persie.
Do you know what? Right. Even though I don't like to, I don't know what he did to us, but Van Persie would be perfect for this team right now. We don't have an out-and-out striker, so adding him right now, I think we've got players like Sanchez, and we've got, but we don't have a Van Persie in this team. If we had a Van Persie in this team,
that's what you were crying out for last season,
that's
wasn't
20,
it?
30 goals a season, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quality. Talking of strikers on the market right now in and around the Premier League, who would you take out of Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins, and Alexander Mitrovic?
Ooh, Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
I like Mitrovic as well, but I really, really like Ivan Toney. I think he's an
so
excellent player, really underrated.
Yeah, there's not many people like him in the Premier. He's like a Haaland-esque in his hold-up play is insane.
Yeah.
But his finishing is also top tier.
Yeah, he was someone who used to bully QPR quite a lot, even back in his sort of like Peterborough days.
Great on penalties as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic penalty taking. Except West Ham just signed James Ward-Prowse, and just the ability to have a dead ball specialist in your team. For a team like West Ham, who might be looking down rather than up, that can be the difference between, that
Points,
easily get you 6-9 points a season just from a free kick or something. So it's really interesting take. But yeah, Ivan Toney, such a big player, and in a weird situation at the minute, so could potentially be ready for a cut price, or even someone in January if you're looking for just.
My worry is Spurs will probably keep an eye on him, but
well, if he Spurs, I reckon they might move for him January.
Yeah, he'd be good for them.
But he's a good player.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. This is a tough one. Not like the other two have been easy, but best current English number 10. We've got three options here. We've got Phil Foden, we've got James Maddison, or an Eberechi Eze. Who would you have right now, starting England number 10?
Foden.
Ooh.
I like Eze as well.
Yeah.
Maddison's a good player as well, but to me, Foden, he's an unbelievable player.
We were saying that.
It's a hard one with Foden, is it? Because he doesn't have enough football for someone as good as he is.
I mean, if you were to pick on like current form, he might be bottom of the barrel in terms of those three.
Nah, he's quality.
But he's
just
so
because he's
different.
at City, that's all.
Yeah.
And even when he comes in for City, he always delivers. He's a great player.
Yeah, no, he is. And the problem with England is that we don't play with an out-and-out 10. We play with a sort of really advanced 8.
Yeah.
But we've got such quality in that area. We've got the likes of Eberechi Eze, we've got Foden, we've got Maddison, even the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe when he's back on form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's such an underrated player and can just about getting into the team. And I hope that we can see him get more minutes this season, because I know he struggled with injury last season. But what a fantastic player he is. Mason Mount, even he's just made a fairly big money move to Man United.
That was a face of someone that's not keen on Mason Mount.
Mount's a good player, but he's not as good as Foden for me.
No,
yeah, I'd say or Eze in terms of Mount's one of those players that he doesn't probably know his best position either.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to label him as a number 10.
But Foden is just he's maybe the highest skill ceiling of any England player at the minute.
Player.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, another one for you. This is for managers. I'll ignore Jurgen Klopp and Pep because they're kind of very clearly a tier above. But in terms of other managers that we're competing with, who would you say is the best manager out of Maurizio Pochettino, Eddie Howe, Roberto De Zerbi, and Erik ten Hag?
I like De Zerbi. I really, really like De Zerbi. I'll put him next. Ten Hag after that. Who else?
Poch and Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe's doing a great job.
He is.
I'll put Eddie Howe there. And then Pochettino.
Interesting.
He's got a lot to prove as a new Pochettino, I think.
He's a good manager. He's never won anything, though.
Yeah.
and he's had a lot of time with teams. So
I thought he was an interesting appointment for Chelsea because Chelsea, like, as we've known them in the past couple of decades, is just trophy after trophy. And to hire a manager, I know they had Graham Potter, who was kind of their first step into project managers, but to go for Pochettino, who is not a serial winner.
It'll be interesting because I know from a lot of what I've heard about Chelsea, their pre-season went quite well. A lot of fans were quite excited about how they would, but anything's got to be better than last season.
Yeah.
And it was such a big jump from Tuchel to Potter, where it's like now it's you've had the time to sort of play with it. We need results. You spent 800 million plus. Something's got to click, right?
Pochettino, though, good manager, but we need to see.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to see, but but I think Chelsea fans are like, well, deliver something.
Is it almost kind of like Arteta in the sense that
once you
can tell there's an ideology there. There's a good football
he's got an ideology. He's got a way of playing. He makes young players better. I think it's a good move by Chelsea bringing him in, but ultimately, you know what I mean, all these, whether it be Arteta, whether it be, you know, Pochettino, you know, Ten Hag, Postecoglou, you know what I mean, you're judged on trophies.
Silverware,
yeah.
100%.
All right, last question. Surprise package this season. You got 3 players here. Probably not a big fan of any of them, but
3 players that we labelled as flops last season.
All right.
We got Mikhailo Mudryk, Richarlison, or Anthony. Who do you think is going to be the surprise package out of those 3?
I think Anthony would do better out of the
Interesting.
I think I was going to go for Richarlison.
Oh, and I was going to go Mudryk. So that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, Richarlison, it's time to shine, isn't it?
Anthony, Mudryk.
Richarlison at the bottom.
Richarlison number 1, Mudryk, and then who's the other one?
Anthony Mudryk.
No, Anthony number 1.
Yep.
Yeah, Anthony number 1, Mudryk second, Richarlison third.
Richarlison
is under a lot of pressure. Harry Kane's boots are big boots to fill. He's got to fill those. I don't think he can. Mudryk, I don't know if the price tag's weighing heavy on his head, but he's just not delivered. But I think it's because he's a rookie. He's a young player. It's going to take him time. Whether he'll be this season, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my pick would be in Richarlison. I think he's got all the talent in the world. We've seen it as well. At the World Cup, he was quite electric for Brazil.
Not a prolific goal scorer, is he, though?
But
I wouldn't be happy going into a season
and
he's my number 9. I wouldn't be happy if that was my number 9.
But then if you look at it, without going too sort of analytical into the football way, but Postecoglou, everywhere he's been, it's sort of been he's a hipster's favourite for a reason. He plays with a weird sort of broken system with a very fluid front 3 and 2 very progressive 8s. I think what they're lacking is that second progressive 8. I don't think they have that in their team. I think if they maybe, did they start with who they start with the DM roles?
Ollie Skip.
That was it. I don't think Skip's a top 6 player at all. But if you don't have that going in your foundations and you're trying to build through the thirds, you're never ever going to be able to supply the striker with the chance he needs.
Well, I guess they'll get Bentancur back in that position anyway. And
they got Lo Celso as well on the bench, didn't they? So it's an interesting season.
I'm not sure Richarlison, even at his heights, is prolific enough to fill the boots.
He's done it at smaller clubs. When he was at Watford, he was an exciting player, wasn't he? And even at Everton, he was fairly exciting.
Exciting, but not
goals.
Yeah, he's not Harry Kane.
But no
one's Harry Kane. But yeah, I agree. Tottenham, when you lose Harry Kane, who's a 30-goal a season striker, you want a 15-goal maybe to replace him. I'm not sure Richarlison's even 15.
Yeah, 100%.
Scored 1 last year.
Exactly.
Yeah,
One.
I mean, how many times
and a couple of offside ones as well. Yeah,
horrendous.
But yeah. Now, should we start wrapping it up?
Yeah, should we wrap it
Yeah,
up?
awesome. Guys, we spoke about this earlier in the episode.
That is cool.
We've got a nice here signed Gabriel Martinelli Arsenal home kit. And if you want to be in a chance of winning it, make sure you're subscribed and comment down below who you think will be the Premier League signing of the season and why. Let us know down below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel because we'll be picking a winner big time. It's a big time win. But yeah.
Thank you, Robbie, for having us at your studios. It's been lovely.
Yeah, no, it's been a wonderful experience.
Come again.
Thanks very much. Yeah, no, good luck to Arsenal this season. If you want to if you're for some reason watching us and you don't know who Robbie is, make sure you go over to his channels, all of them. But yeah, he's outside every game, supporting the Arsenal, getting you all that top quality content because he's a front runner in the YouTube media industry. So yeah, big thank you to Robbie. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, comment down below, get into that competition because you don't want to miss out, and subscribe. It's in BoreDraw and it's live.
Come on, Arsenal!